Imagine waking up tomorrow and finding out gasoline wasn't made from oil anymore. While most of the world has been arguing about gas prices, electric cars, and solar panels, China has quietly been working on something much bigger. Scientists there are pulling fuel out of thin air, storing electricity inside frozen air, and chasing a technology that could completely rewrite how the world gets its energy. None of these inventions are random, they're all pieces of one giant strategy. By the end of this video, you'll see why this race isn't just about clean energy. It's about who controls the global economy for the next century. Because in the past, countries became powerful by owning oil. In the future, they might become powerful by making oil. But before we dive into the futuristic science, we need to understand one massive problem hiding in plain sight. China manufactures almost everything, from smartphones and laptops to toys, furniture, appliances, and even parts inside products stamped "Made in America." There's a good chance they started life in a Chinese factory. Running millions of factories isn't cheap. It takes an unbelievable amount of energy. And despite being one of the world's largest economies, China has one weakness that keeps its leaders awake at night: oil. More than 70% of the oil China consumes comes from outside its borders. Every day, giant tankers carry millions of barrels from the Middle East, Africa, and Russia toward Chinese ports. Now here's where things get interesting. Most of those ships don't have 10 different routes to choose from. Instead, they all squeeze through one incredibly narrow waterway between Malaysia and Indonesia called the Strait of Malacca. Think of it like the world's busiest Costco parking lot. Except instead of shopping carts, you've got super tankers carrying enough fuel to keep entire countries running. If that passage were ever blocked because of conflict, an accident, or even a major geopolitical crisis, the impact wouldn't take months. It could be felt within days. Factories could slow down, supply chains would stumble, shipping costs would spike, and prices on everyday products around the world, including in the United States, could rise almost overnight. Experts even have a name for this vulnerability: the Malacca dilemma. China has spent years trying to reduce this risk by building pipelines, expanding strategic oil reserves, and investing in ports across Asia. Those moves help, but they don't eliminate the biggest problem. The oil still has to cross the ocean. So Chinese scientists started asking a completely different question. What if we stopped chasing fuel and simply made it ourselves? If I handed you a glass of water, a little sunshine, and the air you're breathing right now, how much jet fuel could you make? Most people would probably laugh and say, 0. Well, Chinese engineers would disagree, because that's exactly what they're doing. No oil wells, no drilling rigs, no giant offshore platforms, just air, water, sunlight, and some incredibly smart chemistry. Here's how it works. The first step is surprisingly simple. Special machines pull carbon dioxide directly out of the atmosphere. Yes, the same CO2 that's usually blamed for climate change suddenly becomes a valuable raw material instead of a waste product. Think of it like vacuuming your living room, except your living room happens to be the entire sky. Next comes hydrogen, the ingredient you'll keep hearing throughout this story because it connects almost every breakthrough we'll discuss. Using electricity generated by solar panels, another machine splits ordinary water into hydrogen and oxygen. The oxygen is released back into the atmosphere while the hydrogen is carefully collected. Now comes the magic. Scientists combine that captured carbon dioxide with hydrogen under carefully controlled temperatures and pressure. The molecules rearrange themselves into liquid hydrocarbons. The result? Synthetic aviation fuel. The exact same molecules found in conventional jet fuel. To an airplane engine, there's literally no difference. A pilot couldn't tell which fuel came from underground oil and which one started as air floating above a parking lot. One company leading this effort is Carbonology, which opened its first commercial demonstration facility in Shanghai in early 2026. Right now, production is relatively small, around 100 tons of fuel each year, but that's only the beginning. Their roadmap is far more ambitious. First, scale production to roughly 1,000 tons annually. Then increase capacity to around 5,000 tons. Eventually, the goal is a commercial facility capable of producing 100,000 tons of synthetic fuel every year. That's enough fuel for thousands of long-haul flights. And here's why investors are paying attention. Unlike many experimental clean energy projects, this one already has customers waiting. New European regulations now require airlines to gradually increase the percentage of sustainable aviation fuel they use, with stricter targets arriving over the coming decades. In other words, the demand already exists before the factories are fully built. That's a dream scenario for any new industry. But making fuel from air solves only half the challenge. Because even if every rooftop is covered with solar panels, there's one stubborn problem nobody has figured out completely. The sun has an annoying habit of clocking out every evening. So what happens when millions of homes and factories still need electricity after dark? The answer turned out to be one of the strangest ideas engineers have ever put into practice. They decided to freeze the air itself. What's the most powerful battery in the world? If you answered lithium-ion, you're only half right. Because batteries have one frustrating limitation. Eventually, they run out. Even today's largest battery farms can usually keep electricity flowing for only 4 to 5 hours. That's perfectly fine for a short outage, but imagine trying to power an entire city through the night or keeping a massive manufacturing plant running during several cloudy days. Factories can't just hit the pause button. Hospitals can't tell patients, "We'll restart surgery after sunrise." Power has to be available every second of every day. So instead of building a bigger battery, engineers in China's Gobi Desert asked a completely different question. What if we stored energy inside air? Here's the process. During the day, nearby solar farms often generate more electricity than the grid can use. Normally, that extra power would simply go to waste. Instead, this facility uses the surplus electricity to cool ordinary air down to an unbelievable minus 194 degrees Celsius. At that temperature, air changes from a gas into a liquid. Yes, you can literally pour air into giant storage tanks. Now comes the clever part. When electricity demand rises after sunset, engineers allow that liquid air to warm back up. As it heats, it expands nearly 750 times its original liquid volume. That enormous expansion creates powerful pressure capable of spinning industrial turbines. Those turbines generate electricity without burning coal, natural gas, or oil. This isn't just another laboratory experiment. The facility operates alongside a 250 megawatt solar farm, storing excess daytime electricity and releasing it for roughly 10 continuous hours after sunset. That's more than double the duration of many large lithium battery systems. And perhaps the biggest advantage? No lithium, no cobalt, no dependence on rare minerals that require complex international mining and supply chains. Instead, the main ingredients are surprisingly ordinary: air, electricity, industrial cooling systems, and storage tanks. The plant is expected to deliver around 180 gigawatt hours of electricity each year, proving this technology can operate at commercial scale rather than remaining a scientific curiosity. But here's something even more interesting. Electricity alone doesn't solve every energy problem. Cargo ships crossing the Pacific can't stop every few hundred miles to recharge. Many steel mills, chemical plants, and heavy industries still need liquid or chemical fuels that can be stored for weeks or transported across oceans. So scientists needed another missing piece. Ironically, the answer wasn't hiding inside a high-tech laboratory. It was sitting under millions of American kitchen sinks. Ammonia. The same chemical many people associate with cleaning products could soon help power cargo ships, transport clean hydrogen across continents, and reshape global shipping. And once you understand why hydrogen is hidden inside that simple molecule, you'll realize every breakthrough we've covered so far has secretly been building toward the exact same destination. By now, one thing should be crystal clear. Fuel made from air, electricity stored inside frozen air, hydrogen produced from water. They're all connected like pieces of one giant puzzle. And sitting right in the middle of that puzzle is one element: hydrogen. Think of hydrogen as the universal middleman of the future energy economy. Synthetic jet fuel needs it. Green ammonia can't exist without it. Future steel plants, chemical factories, and even long-distance transportation may depend on it. So whoever can produce hydrogen cheaply and at massive scale could hold a huge advantage in the next global energy race. And China isn't wasting time. Just a few years ago, the country's annual clean hydrogen production was relatively small. Today, it's several times larger, with new projects being announced almost every year. One province alone is building offshore wind farms dedicated to producing hydrogen from seawater, targeting tens of thousands of tons annually. That's a huge leap in a remarkably short time. But here's the statistic that really makes people in the energy industry pay attention. China now manufactures roughly 65% of the world's electrolyzers. If you've never heard that word before, don't worry. An electrolyzer is simply the machine that splits water into hydrogen and oxygen using electricity. Without it, there is no green hydrogen. During the oil boom, countries competed to control oil wells. In the hydrogen era, the real prize may be controlling the machines that create the fuel itself. If the United States, Europe, Africa, or South America wants to expand hydrogen production, many of those projects will begin with electrolyzers. And right now, China builds more of them than anyone else. Even traditional oil companies are starting to notice. Some refineries that spent decades processing crude oil are now investing hundreds of millions of dollars to convert portions of their facilities into synthetic fuel production. When longtime industry giants start changing direction, it's usually because they see where the market is heading. But even hydrogen has one limitation. It still depends on electricity. Solar panels need sunshine. Wind turbines need, well, wind. So scientists ask the biggest question of all. What if electricity itself never ran out? That's where the final frontier begins. Fusion energy. The same reaction that powers our sun. Instead of burning fuel, fusion combines tiny hydrogen atoms under temperatures hotter than the sun's core, releasing enormous amounts of clean energy. No smoke, no carbon emissions, and only tiny amounts of long-lived waste compared to traditional nuclear power. China's experimental advanced superconducting tokamak, better known as EAST, has recently achieved record-breaking plasma confinement times, keeping an ultra-hot fusion reaction stable longer than previous attempts. No, fusion isn't powering neighborhoods yet. Commercial fusion is still years away. Now imagine putting every breakthrough from this video together. Fusion provides nearly limitless clean electricity. That electricity creates hydrogen. Hydrogen becomes ammonia and synthetic jet fuel. Extra electricity gets stored as liquid air for nighttime use. Suddenly, you're looking at a complete energy ecosystem built mostly from air, water, and renewable power, instead of underground oil reserves. And that changes something much bigger than technology. For more than a century, global influence largely belonged to countries that controlled oil fields or shipping routes like the Strait of Malacca. But if energy can eventually be produced almost anywhere using common resources, those old advantages begin to matter less. The new competition won't just be about who owns natural resources, it'll be about who designs, builds, and exports the machines that power this new energy system. Whether this transition takes 20 years or 50, one thing is already happening. The race has started. The factories are being built, the investments are being made, and while much of the world is still debating what the future of energy will look like, someone else is already building it. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications because the next episode dives even deeper into the technologies quietly reshaping our world. And now here's a question for you. If countries can someday make energy almost anywhere using nothing more than air and water, which nation do you think stands to gain the most, and which one has the most to lose? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.